Drake just dissed the same company that made him the most streamed artist in the world. Again, in this video, we're exposing how Drake's petty war with Spotify is getting real messy, from lawsuits to live stream shade to him calling out the same bots he allegedly used himself. Let's unpack why this might be his worst self-owned yet. Quick question for y'all. Can an artist bite the hand that streamed them and still keep their crown? Comment below. Is Drake actually sabotaging himself with these fake stream accusations? Is Drake seriously spinning the block on Spotify beef? This man just lost a career-defining lyrical battle to Kendrick Lamar. And what's the first name out of his mouth after the dust settles? Not Kendrick, not even Pusha T. It's Spotify. Again, Drake hopped on a live stream and threw petty shade at the platform that made him the most streamed artist on earth. With no background music, no hesitation, and full sarcasm, he mocked Spotify and dared them to play his songs like some rogue teenager defying their curfew. Instead of facing Kendrick's lyrical death blow head on, Drake targets the platform as if Spotify itself hit him with "Not Like Us." 55.5 million daily streams. That's how often Spotify users press play on Drake. He's their cash cow, their face, their algorithmic breadwinner, but somehow he's still acting like they've betrayed him. Let's be real, you don't get playlisted on massive dance hits, Happy Pop, and Beast Mode for over a decade by accident. Spotify has pushed Drake harder than anyone, yet now he wants war? Over what? Not winning a battle he wasn't prepared for? This is textbook cherry picking. When the streams favor him, he's certified lover boy. When they don't, it's suddenly Spotify is shady. You can't flex platinum stats and scream sabotage in the same breath. Yes, Drake literally filed legal action against Spotify over Not Like Us. He accused them, when UMG, of enabling bot streams to boost Kendrick Lamar's numbers. But here's the thing. Instead of presenting evidence and taking it to trial, he quietly dropped the petition like a mixtape that flopped. The same guy who accused the industry of shady manipulation just walked away with 0 wins, 0 receipts, and 0 public accountability. You can't scream conspiracy, then hit delete when nobody claps. He filed in both New York and Texas, but the New York case was withdrawn with no costs and no consequences. January 14th, Drake pulled the plug on the petition like it never happened. No press conference, no update, just vanished. But here's what's wild. The Texas version of that petition stayed active for weeks after, just floating in legal limbo until it too faded out quietly. Why? Because there was no proof, no evidence, just vibes, suspicion, and petty paranoia wrapped in a Gucci headband. The lawsuits made headlines, but they never made sense. What we witnessed wasn't a legal strategy. It was a tantrum, disguised as a filing. This wasn't about justice. It was about ego damage. Spotify was Drake's biggest enabler until it wasn't. For 14 years, the man's face was everywhere. Playlist covers, genre banners, even niche lists like Best of British, despite being Canadian. They rolled out the green carpet for Champagne Poppy. When Scorpion dropped, Spotify turned the homepage into a Drake billboard. They didn't just support him, they basically sponsored his ego. Now, after one bad year and one Kendrick haymaker, he's throwing shade at the same platform that made him a streaming giant. Let's cut the noise. Drake didn't lose to bots, he lost to bars. Kendrick Lamar outmaneuvered him at every turn, lyrically, strategically, and emotionally. Instead of owning that, Drake tried to discredit the W by pointing fingers at the algorithm. He couldn't say, Kendrick beat me, so he said, Spotify cheated me. That's not the behavior of a veteran. That's the behavior of a sore loser. Hip-hop is about standing tall, even when you take a hit. Drake fell and then tried to sue gravity. Remember when Drake was teasing Iceman like it was Power Season 1? All that "I know what you did last summer" energy, the cryptic IG stories, the talk of exposing the industry, gone. As soon as Kendrick bodied him and the lawsuits started evaporating, so did the Iceman campaign. It didn't fizzle, it vanished, like it never happened. What happened to all the episodes? What happened to the dramatic buildup? We were supposed to get a reckoning. We got a rerun. Turns out, when the receipts aren't real, the rollout can't last. By accusing others of using bots, Drake accidentally lit the whole industry on fire, including himself. Now every spike in streaming, every sudden chalk climb, fans are suspicious. People aren't celebrating numbers anymore. They're dissecting them. You wanted transparency? Cool. Now everyone's holding your stats under a microscope The artist who defined the streaming era is now being questioned by it because he trained listeners to think every play might be fake. So which is it? Is Spotify the enemy or the resume? Drake's stans celebrate every yearly Spotify Wrapped stat like it's a Grammy win. Most streamed artist, screenshot, top 10 playlist cover, IG story. But then Drake turns around and says Spotify is rigged. You can't use Spotify as your trophy case and your punching bag. If the numbers matter, they all matter, even when they don't go your way. Otherwise, you're just moving the goalpost because Kendrick kicked the ball down your throat. If you've made it this far, you're part of the streaming Truth Squad. Drop a comment if you think Drake's Iceman rollout melted the moment he got bodied. And don't forget, hit that like button if you think Spotify should clap back by shadow banning him for a week. Let's see how those bot-free numbers hold up. Let's talk about the exact 37,000 streams that disappeared from 21 Savage's numbers. Yep, the same 37K that critics said looked suspicious from the jump. One day it's there, the next day, poof, gone. And here's the gag. This was right after Drake turned the industry into a bot-sniffing watchdog club. He created a monster and now is checking his own collaborators. Was it an algorithm error, a quiet adjustment, or just the industry quietly correcting what Drake loudly exposed? Drake sued UMG and Spotify, and both companies basically laughed in legalese. There was no drawn-out courtroom drama, no heated debates. They sat down, exchanged pleasantries, and poof, the case was withdrawn with no penalties. No one took him seriously, not even his own lawyers after a point. This wasn't a victory lap. This was a quiet tap out. And the most embarrassing part, the lawsuits never proved Not Like Us was botted. All that fire and not even a spark in court. So what does Drake do after the legal flop? Go live with Benedon and act petty. He sits there, no music playing, making awkward jokes about Spotify like he's the main character in a low-budget revenge arc. At one point, he literally mocks Spotify by pretending to play his music through it, then says, "What's goody?" While Drake was freestyling lawsuits, Kendrick was crafting war maps. You can tell had this beef mapped out months in advance. Every bar had breadcrumbs, every diss had layers. He didn't just out-rap Drake, he outplanned him. This was chess versus checkers. Drake reacted, Kendrick orchestrated. Big difference. And that's why the Spotify lawsuit looked desperate. It wasn't about bots. It was about being outclassed in public and not knowing how to handle it. Drake's been the face of nearly every major Spotify playlist, even the British ones. Let's be serious. What's a Canadian rapper doing on Best of British? No grime track, no UK drill, no London slang, just vibes and algorithms. Spotify bent over backwards to keep him in front of every listener, every genre, every mood board. Then he turns around and says, the platform is sabotaging him. The same app that made you king of streaming is suddenly the villain. Drake's not biting the hand that fed him. He's gnawing at it like a rabid TikTok comment section. Plot twist, the most serious bot accusation against Spotify didn't even come from Drake. It came from RBX, a third-party rights management group who filed a class action lawsuit claiming Spotify turned a blind eye to billions of fraudulent streams. And guess whose name is at the center of the fraud claims? Yup, Drake. He lit the fuse, and now the explosion is pointing back at him. This ain't speculation, it's a court filing. It accuses Spotify of knowingly profiting from stream fraud and implies Drake may have been the biggest benefactor. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Either Spotify let Drake bot or they exploited him for numbers. If they knew it was happening and stayed quiet, that's shady. If they didn't know but still platformed him like royalty, that's reckless. Either way, Drake went from golden boy to walking liability. Now Spotify is caught between defending their brand and distancing themselves from the artists they pushed harder than anyone. And Drake, he created the monster, fed it, then blamed it when it turned around and bit him. This is Drake's biggest unforced error. He made the numbers meaningless. By screaming bot farms every time someone else wins, he trained fans to question everything, including his own plaques. Now when a song spikes, people ask, is this real or is this Drake math? He cracked the code, then cried foul when someone else used it better. The irony? Drake needed streaming stats more than anyone, and now those stats are forever under suspicion, thanks to him. Drake didn't just lose to Kendrick, he lost the plot. He used to be the guy whose dominance was undeniable. Streams, charts, numbers. But now He's the dude yelling fake from the VIP section of his own concert. You can't be the face of the algorithm and then diss the algorithm. He built a brand on being untouchable, but by exposing the flaws in the system, he made himself look fraudulent. That's not sabotage from Spotify. That's self-inflicted damage from Drake. So let's get this straight. Drake called out the very platform that built his empire, filed lawsuits with no proof, then ran a live stream tantrum instead of dropping Iceman. And in doing so, he might have accidentally trained the entire internet to stop trusting his own numbers. That's not a diss track, that's a legacy L. Coming up next, we're diving into whether Drake's Iceman album was secretly scrapped and rebuilt inside a Houston strip club. You're going to want to see the receipts. Tap in.